Hey everybody, I'm Jason Creel and this is The Lawn Care Life. In this video, I'm gonna talk about different strategies people use for leaf cleanup, and I wanna talk about pricing leaf cleanup, and I wanna talk about the pros and cons of the different approaches you can take to leaf cleanup. Let's get started with that right now. Well, if you live in a yard or take care of lawns that have a lot of trees, then you know that you're probably going to end up with a lot of leaves to clean up, unless of course you got evergreen trees. But you can see this driveway is scattered with leaves, and we cleaned it up probably 2 weeks ago. But I mean, there's just leaves, and by the looks of the trees, there's still more to fall. So there's different approaches to this. I'm going to talk to you about some of the things you can do, and what I would recommend is the best strategy, but also some other strategies that you can use depending on what kind of equipment you have. So let's start off with obviously the most basic way that I can think about doing a leaf cleanup was just getting a rake and go out there raking. This is the cheapest strategy. I think would be the only pro I could think of for that. The cons are, it takes forever. I want to start off with what I would consider to be the cheapest but probably the worst way to do a leaf cleanup job, and that's just raking leaves. So if you're in the lawn care business, raking leaves is probably not a way that you're gonna be able to make money because of the time it takes you, and that is by far the biggest con about it, is that it just takes forever. The only benefit to it I can think of, it takes very little equipment, and obviously you can do a good job if you want to. But moving on to more realistic ways that people are gonna do a leaf cleanup job, one option is just using a backpack blower. And of course you gotta have a way to get rid of the leaves once you blow them up. But the blower is gonna be a key tool no matter what you're doing with leaf cleanup, because even if you're using other equipment, you wanna still use the blower to get the leaves away from fences and off the driveway and out of the flower beds and things like that. So as you can see in the video clip with me blowing the leaves, the key here is getting them away. So if I was gonna do a leaf cleanup on this yard with just a blower, again, you gotta have something, you might have to rake them into a bag when you get done blowing, but I mean, you wanna get in here where all these trees are. No matter what strategy you're using, you wanna take your blower and blow everything away from the fences, out of the flower beds, and get where you can get access to it with whatever other tool you're gonna use. So, you know, you can get by just with a blower. When you're using a blower for leaf cleanups, obviously if the leaves are wet, that's gonna be a challenge, and usually more power is better. I've often thought that a mid-sized blower is all that you really need in a lawn care business when you're just mowing grass and blowing clippings off driveways. But when it comes to leaf cleanup, it definitely helps to have a larger size blower. Now let's say you're running a lawn care business, or you have access to more equipment as a homeowner. If you're doing leaf cleanup and you have a lawnmower, then this is going to be a big advantage. So let me start off by saying, if you just have a mulching mower, what I would do. I would still approach it the same way as if you were just going to do it with a blower and then rake it up or drag it out on a tarp, which we've done that before. But if you have a mower, whether it's side discharges or mulches, then you can blow everything away from the fences, out of the flower beds, out in the open, off the driveway, and then you can start mulching it with your mower. And what you can do is run your mower in a way that it keeps pushing everything toward the center. That way it's getting remulched over and over and over again. And just by doing that, you can really make a huge difference on lawn. Now you may be thinking, if you're a critic of this method, saying, Jason, all you're doing is mulching up the leaves, you're not actually bagging them, you're not actually taking them away. You'll be amazed at how clean a yard can look just by mulching or even side discharging with this method. So this is a strategy. If you got two people working, you have one person blowing, the other person mulching them or side discharging. Again, you want to kind of push it to the inside, and the only exception to that would be if the leaves are so thick, you may not want to keep pushing it to the inside, because you may end up bogging down your mower. You may have to go slow and kind of side discharge them to the outside so that you don't bog your mower down. Now the pros of using a lawnmower to side discharge or mulch is, in my opinion, it's one of the absolute fastest ways to do a leaf cleanup job. The cons would be that it's not going to get you that perfectly clean result, because technically you are not actually taking any leaves away, you're just mulching them away. Again, if you've never tried this method, you may have a yard that's just piles and piles of leaves that would take you maybe 20 bags to fill up, and you'll be amazed at how little is left when you run over it with a lawnmower. It's amazing what those lawnmowers can do to break down leaves into, you know, too small to break down those leaves into small sizes, which they're eventually just going to decompose in your lawn. Another con of this method is it can be extremely dusty. You know, you're just sitting there crunching stuff up, and if it's dry, which is easier for actually doing the work, it can be a dust bowl out there, which can be a real problem. You might want to wear a mask, and of course wear ear and eye protection. Now let me talk you through another option. Let's say you've just got a bagging mower and you want to do your leaf cleanup. This will probably give you one of the cleanest looks. Now obviously you still want to blow them out from the flower beds, blow them away from trees, off the driveway, sidewalk, things like that. Get it out in the open, in the grass, where you can access it with a mower, and then you can bag it. And of course a bagging mower is going to do a great job whether you got a push mower or whether you got a commercial grade bagging mower like an Exmark Navigator or maybe a Walker. They will do a great job on sucking up the leaves and giving you a really nice clean look on the yard. Now, what's the pros and cons of this method? Well, pros being it's great. You're actually hauling off the leaves. The cons are you got to have something to do with them. So you either got to bag them and haul them off, or maybe the city picks them up, or maybe you have somewhere to dump them. And another con is where mulching really reduces the amount of clippings that are left. When you just straight bag them, it's going to be a lot more bags, especially if it's a heavy duty leaf cleanup job. Now, if it's something you're running over once a week, then it won't be that bad. Another con is sometimes there's so many leaves that it really can bag down a bagging mower, because you know they're not able to handle quite the load oftentimes that a mulching mower is or a side discharge mower is. I've shared this story before, but even had a situation where I almost caught my commercial bagging mower on fire because there were so many leaves. I was trying to suck them up, had a lot of clogging problems because it was just trying to suck up way too many leaves. And sometimes when they get piled up in the yard, the ones on the bottom are just wet and nasty. And then as they began to dry out, they got caught on the muffler and started a small fire. I had to grab some hand wipes out of the truck to put the fire out. So that was a bad experience I had with leaf cleanup, and definitely learned some lessons on that job. All right, another strategy you can have is to have some kind of a giant leaf vac on your truck to haul it off. I mean, it's not really a separate strategy, but you know, in some areas where I live, the city will come back and suck them up with a giant leaf vacuum. But some people have some sort of trailer or something on their truck where they can suck up the leaves, and that's great. You still got to get them out to the trucks. You know, you still got to use a blower or something to get them out there. So you know, the cons of that method is you got to buy an expensive some kind of expensive leaf vacuum thing to put them in your truck. You still got to find somewhere to dump them and haul them off, which may be an added expense. And like I said, it's not an all-in-one solution. It takes care of them once you get them out of the truck, but you still gotta get them out there to start with. So, and the other thing is, it can be an expensive piece of equipment that you're only able to use certain times a year. So to me, that only makes sense if you're really doing a lot of leaf cleanup jobs and you're able to pay for that equipment, justify the cost of it, and making a lot of money with it. Now I want to talk to you about the strategy that I used when I was running a mowing business. We were doing a lot of leaf cleanups, and this is what I found to be the best strategy. After sometimes just trying to bag the leaves with just a bagging mower, I found that it was just a lot of leaves to deal with. So what we would do, and we may have multiple people, let's say you had 3 people, but you can do it by yourself as well. The good thing is when you're doing leaf cleanups, at least in the South, there's usually not any edging or trimming that needs to be done. Now, I know sometimes for the cool season grasses, they may still be growing. You have to do some of that things. But for us, let's just say you have 3 people. You have one person blowing, getting everything out in the open, another person on a mulching mower, and another person on a bagging mower. Now, you may say, oh, is that not overkill on equipment? Well, we had the equipment, so that's the strategy we used. Now, if you don't have all that equipment, you do with what you've got. But we have somebody blowing, and then you have the guy with the mulching mower, and he's going around the yard mulching it, and then the person on the bagging mower is going behind him bagging it. You say, well, why would you do that? It's not twice going over the yard. Well, it is, but again, when you mulch it first and then you go back and bag it, it just greatly reduces the amount of bags that you would have to have. So let's say it would have taken 10 bags if you just went over with a bagging mower. By mulching it first, you may reduce that down to like 2 bags. So I mean, it greatly reduces it, and not having to empty that bagger and just, you know, sometimes that can be a pain. So to me, that was the strategy we used. Again, when I'm using that mulching mower, side discharge mower, and blow it to the inside, and then coming back over it with the bagging mower, you may not be getting every last leaf particle when you do it that way, but it's going to be better than if you just mulched it. It's going to be cleaner because you are going over it with that bagging mower. So that's the strategy we use. Again, there's nothing wrong with just mulching it if your customers are okay with that, or if you're okay with that as a homeowner. You know, if you want just perfection, then you probably are going to need some kind of bagger or blower or something, because the mulching's not going to leave you with a perfect lawn. But it's kind of like the way I look at it when we wash our cars here in the South, and we got in the spring, there's pollen all over your car. You wash it, what happens? The next day there's pollen all over your car again. So, you know, you clean up the leaves, and a few days later there's more leaves in the lawn. So it's not, you know, it may be perfect if you want to bag it, but it's not going to last long. So a lot of people are okay with mulching. Now, what about pricing this? If you're doing it as a business, how do you go about it? Well, I've got a few thoughts on this. One, you need to understand, have a little bit of experience to understand how much work it is, because it is definitely more work than mowing lawns. You might say, like I made the point earlier, you might not have any edging to do or trimming, but that doesn't matter. There's a leaf cleanup is a bigger job, and it's more work. So you need to price it accordingly. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's say that you're mowing somebody's yard weekly and it comes leaf cleanup season. Then in that situation, if they're it goes with your business strategy, but if you're kind of charging people a high-end price and you're able to just continue on the regular service, then it's possible that you just keep charging them the same price if it's weekly, and if it's not that many trees, and you know, it's just, I've been running over your lawn every week, now I'm gonna run over it again and bag or mulch these leaves, and it's really not that much more work. And it might be a situation where you've got it priced out for the calendar year and you charge a little bit extra, but they're paying a monthly price. But now if you get somebody and they just want like a one-time leaf cleanup, or maybe 2 or 3 times, and it's a lot more work than it normally is to mow their grass, then you've got to understand that it could take you 2 or 3 times as long to do that job. So you have to kind of understand your time, and if you know that, hey, on mowing lawns, I'm trying to make $75 per man hour, then you need to at least make that when you're doing leaf cleanup. So if you go out there and you think, well, this is going to take me 2 hours, well, you know, but it's a $75 mowing lawn or a $60 mowing lawn. Well, if it's going to take you twice as long, then you need to at least double your price. But I would approach it like this with a customer. If they're not a regular, if they don't want you just coming out there once a week, keeping the yard maintained, they want to do kind of a big leaf cleanup, I'd say, listen, we can wait till all these leaves fall, and I can come out here and do it for $300. You know, I'm just throwing out a number based on how long it's going to take. If it's going to be a job that's going to take 3 men, 3 hours or something like that, then obviously it's going to be a huge job. You probably need to charge more than that. Let's say take 3 men, 1.5 hours, you know, well, then you need to, that's 4.5 man hours. So that's a big job, and you need to price it accordingly. If you're charging $75 per man hour, then that's going to put you somewhere in that $300 range. I don't have my calculator with me at the moment. But you could also approach it with them this way. He's like, listen, if you want us to do it multiple times, we can come out here and do 3 leaf cleanups on your property, and we can charge it at a lesser amount. You say, you know, maybe it's going to be $100 each time if you'll let us come out here every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or whatever it's going to be until you get to the kind of the end of your leaf season. Where I live, most of the leaves are gone by Christmas time. There's some oak trees that seem to be slower to fall, and those don't really drop their leaves until January. So again, depending on the yard, depending on how many trees, depending on how many leaves, and depending on the customer, but you just don't want to shortchange yourself. I mean, if you're going to do leaf cleanups, you got to make it worth your while. You got to use a strategy, and you got to understand your clientele. Can you get by with the mulching strategy, or do you have to bag it? So anyway, I'm just trying to share from my experience of doing leaf cleanups. It can be a profitable business. It's something that's seasonal, so that's why I don't understand just necessarily investing a lot of money in it unless it's really profitable, like some of the people doing snow plowing, and it's very seasonal, but it's extremely profitable, so it's worth the equipment. So you got to make that call to how much money you're going to be able to generate from leaf cleanups to know if it's worth your while to invest in some heavy duty equipment, or can you just use the equipment you have. Let me hear from you. What's your strategy on leaf cleanups? How do you price it? What kind of equipment do you use? And is it something that's been profitable for you and your business? I'm Jason Creel. I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. If you're in the lawn care business, I'd encourage you to go over to lawncarelife.com. There's some resources available for you there. Appreciate you watching the video. There's over 500 videos on the channel. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.